James, and welcome to Paddock Pass. We told you we'd be back in Silverstone today. We didn't quite expect that the storm that would hit, Storm Doris, nice name, would be quite as strong as it's turned out to be. 19-mile-an-hour winds here today at Silverstone for the launch of Mercedes W08, their 2017 Challenger. Believe it or not, the car's actually been out running around the circuit all day, first for Lewis Hamilton and then for Valtteri Bottas. As you'll see from the images of it, luckily they haven't put a shark fin on it, as it might have pushed the car off the track and thrown it into the barriers. The only fin that there is Valtteri Bottas. Anyway, launch day for the W08. What has Mercedes got in store? What do the drivers think of the new car that they've got? And also thoughts today you'll hear from team boss Toto Wolff. Inside now and out of the wind and cold at Silverstone. Time to reflect on the W08 and the EQ Power Plus, as it will be called, car, that name representing all the new hybrid systems that are going into AMG cars from this point onwards. I think it's fair to say the most intricate of all of the cars that we've seen thus far. Yesterday, after the Force India launch, Vijay Mallya threw some shade over onto Renault in a war of words, which seems to be sparking between those two teams, that Renault hadn't actually launched the car that we'll see at testing. And I think it's fair to say that from what we've seen of Mercedes today, it's certainly the closest to the car that we'll see, not just in testing but also in Australia, given that we have actually seen the car circulating around the track today. As we've said all week, the real points of interest this season are, of course, the front wing and the nose. They are the barge boards and the front of those side pods, and then, of course, that rear wing. And those are the 3 points of interest with this car that I think if we take a look at, again, a very steep nose. Don't quite have the big forehead, as Force India have called it, in front of their bulkhead, and a very intricate front wing. Once again, that arrow-like quality to the front wing here on the Mercedes. The barge boards, again, it's the sheer amount of detail on this Mercedes that really is incredible. And you'll see coming out of the side pod above that barge board is what we used to call the boomerang wing. Makes a little return there. Again, hugely intricate on the leading edge of the floor, and again the turning vanes are just on the side, the edge of the side pods. What's really interesting for me as well, though, is the packaging at the rear of the car. Of all of the cars that we've seen so far, this has Mercedes a few years ago termed it a size 0 design approach to the rear of the car. I mean, it's got size -2, -4 at the back. There is nothing to it, and it's not just at the rear, but pretty much from where the side pods begin all the way back. It disappears to nothing. There is so much floor on show. It's just an astonishingly tightly packaged car. I mean, desperately impressive. And one thing we did see today, which we haven't seen on any of the other cars, and is this a little area that Mercedes has discovered that maybe nobody else has, but a large T-wing coming out of the back of the engine cover in front of the rear wing, almost like one of the rear wings, the very sort of basic rear wings that we first saw back in the sort of late 1960s. It really is quite a rudimental big T sort of sticking out of the back there. Anyway, it's a beautiful car. Without that shark fin, it looks great. Mercedes have said that they will trial a shark fin at a later point. It was due to be later today. Whether that happens or not with the huge winds around at Silverstone, we're not quite sure. But they do have one on their books that they will trial at some point. Right, that's the car. Now to the drivers. Of course, world champion, 3 times world champion, Lewis Hamilton. He's a 3 times world champion now, not a 4 times world champion, isn't he? Yeah. That's good. I almost ruined that link. 3 times world champion Lewis Hamilton and his new stablemate Valtteri Bottas. Launch day for the W08. What are your first impressions of it, and how do you think it compares, visually at least, to the other cars we've seen launched so far this week?
We've only seen the Sauber and the Renault. Sauber looks a lot better with the paint scheme. I'm glad they've gone for a better paint scheme, and then is it the Renault we've seen? I think their paint scheme last year looked better, but otherwise, I mean, it's difficult to. I've not really looked massively into detail, but I know our car looks the best so far, as you would expect. We're the world championship team, and you would expect us to build an amazing car, and I honestly think they have. I'm excited to see what Ferrari and Red Bull pull out with.
It's been a busy winter for everybody. What have you had to change in your training regimen in order to get fully prepared for these new cars?
I've just had to do more. Add more cardio into it, more... I mean, the running and the cardio has always been a good thing. It's never ever been an issue. It's been more of the endurance of the muscles. So shoulders, core, whilst not bulking up. It's been a real challenge to find the right balance. Whether or not I have, we'll see. But I definitely feel in a more, and I'm older as well, but I feel fitter than ever. So I hope that reflects to when I'm out in the car. But I'm sure when I get in, I'm gonna feel it for sure, and as we all are, because we don't know what to expect.
First time at Mercedes, you've got a different guy on the other side of the garage from you. How much are you looking forward to the challenge presented by a new teammate?
I'm always down for a challenge, so always up for and this is the unknown. I have no idea how competitive Valtteri's going to be. I'm sure it's going to be very competitive, but I don't know to what extent, where his strengths and weaknesses are going to be. How do you stay ahead? How you get ahead? When it's super intense, when the chips are low, all these different experiences we're going to have, and how we get through it. But I think we started on the right foot, and I hope to continue. I'll work as hard as I can with the team and him to make sure, whatever the case, it's positive for the team.
Untama and Elma.
Yeah, good. Nearly right, but...
She said I could have an extra question if I asked my first one in Finnish.
So,
is it a dream come true?
It is. Well, definitely. Well, it's something it was difficult to dream of end of last year, because I was sure I was going to be a Williams driver. But you never know in life. Things can happen, I see.
The pressure must feel quite huge for you, though, knowing that you have a one-year contract, knowing that Nico admitted at the end of last season it took everything he had to mount a challenge to Lewis. How big is that pressure that you feel inside yourself to perform this season?
I know the facts completely, that I will need to perform very well. The team is obviously expecting me to perform at the level of the car and go up against Lewis. And I feel I'm ready for that. I feel it can sound weird, but I feel no pressure at all. I'm just massively looking forward to the season, really. And I know what I can do with a good car. I know I have very very strong team behind me, helping me out with everything. So
Did it change anything for your winter in terms of how you've approached your winter, the change in team? And have you had any difficulties integrating already into the team?
Well, the winter was a long wait. Christmas time, New Year time was basically waiting for the decision and what's going to happen. So it was difficult to relax. But still, 2nd of January, we started our first training camp with Antti, my trainer, and did everything as planned. And when things were confirmed, that was mega. And but it's been busy. It's been busy since the signing and announcement, preparing with the team for the new season. The time is short, but I feel like we definitely have made the most out of it, and I feel good today in the car, and I feel we are definitely ready for the testing with the team.
Given the team you find yourself at now, have you dared to think about that first win, or do you still hold that one at the back of your mind, not quite thinking about it yet?
Not thinking about it too much. I think the best is for me to just focus on the driving, go with it and do my best, and not to forget at any point to enjoy it as well, because that's when the results will come.
So some interesting stuff from the drivers. Lewis, of course, when he was spoken to by the media earlier, they said, "What's your objective for the season?" He said, "I want to win. It's what I go into every season to do. I just want to win." And for Valtteri, really, an opportunity of a lifetime here at Mercedes this year to be racing for the World Champions. Of course, he is only on a one-year deal, and with the likes of Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel up for contract renewal or renegotiation at a different team at the end of the season, we know that Valtteri is going to have to impress, and impress fast, if he wants to hold on to that seat. Anyway, it's a long way to go before we get into that. One thing I did find interesting as well was talking to Lewis and him talking about his training regimen over the winter. Everybody we've spoken to so far has said they've put on at least 5 kilos of muscle in order to prepare for driving these cars. Lewis, though, talked about concentrating mostly on cardio. I find that interesting, and watching also his Instagram videos and everything over the winter. There's been a lot of training, not so much on the weights though. I wonder if that will come back to haunt him. Anyway, time will tell. Now though, for the man who's got to keep them both on the straight and narrow, it's not been an easy winter for Mercedes. First they had to find a new driver, then they had to find a new technical chief, but as Toto Wolff explains, sometimes a bit of disruption can be a good thing. Launch day, it's always a big day, but it's always the first day in a much longer story. How do you think this story is going to play out?
First of all, I'm really excited about the launch again. We've done something that was bigger than in the last years, and that's why it's even more exciting having everybody here, and you guys and our partners. The car looks good, the car is looks sophisticated, and now the car has to be quick. And I'm with those new rules, I'm actually very, very excited.
Good. I think we all are as well. It's not been an easy winter for you, though. You've lost a driver, you've gained a driver, lost a technical chief and gained one. Does disruption make life difficult for you, or is it something you embrace?
I embrace disruption, but you need to be careful. If a wheel is turning well, it doesn't need revolution. But from time to time, it needs disruption. I think that is a positive thing, and we have embraced it.
Lewis and Nico didn't always have the easiest of relationships as combative racing drivers. How will it be between Lewis and Valtteri? Will the rules of engagement still exist, and will you have to tweak them given what you've learned in the past?
The relationship between Lewis and Nico was good and bad, because on one side they knew each other forever, and that gave it a bit of a base. But then we don't know what was part of their joint history, and you could see that sometimes it got really controversial. With Valtteri is all back to start, and it looks good at the moment, but I have no doubt if the rivalry were to get intense and they were to fight on track for hopefully race wins or podiums or a championship, that it's not going to be always an easy ride. It's the nature of the story.
Just a final one, just about the launch today. Obviously it's been done very much with the fans in mind. We've got new owners of the sport. Is that what you'd like to see from the sport in the future? More embracing of fans, more open?
Yes, I think that is. The digital audiences are important audiences. You shouldn't forget about our current partners. We have had huge numbers in our Facebook Live launch today, and this shows that this is what's attracting new audiences. So I think with Liberty joining, it provides opportunity.
Thanks, so that's your lot from the launch of the Mercedes W08, the car that this team hopes will bring them another set of World Championships. Tomorrow, 2 launches, one car which will be red, the other we think will be orange. So Ferrari are launching their 2017 Challenger, and we'll be in Woking for the launch of the McLaren. We'll bring you a Paddock Pass tomorrow, then the remainder of the cars are going to be launched over the weekend, and we'll bring you a wrap-up of all of that, along with what we think we've learned this week from the launches, with a little something which we should bring you just after the weekend. So that's your lot from a very windy Silverstone, and we'll see you tomorrow at Woking.